Good evening and welcome to the 4Corners podcast. Shad just dropped right before we went on the air, but
Oh
he will be
no.
back.
I'm
Yeah.
still here.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
where'd your camera go?
I clicked my camera off for just a second.
Oh, I did. Oh, that's why you're gone, because I hid Craig bot.
Yeah.
Okay. Shad's here. He'll show back up on the thing. I changed my
I
settings.
exist.
I changed my settings so Craig bot wouldn't forever be on screen.
No, I'm real.
Okay. So we're gonna be talking about like who we think like some of the best wrestlers of this era is, but I had just remembered like right before we were going on air that Peter David had passed away just a couple days ago. And if you don't know who Peter David is, I would say he's one of the iconic writers of the 90s probably in 2000s.
Oh God, he had a long career.
And I mean, he did Hulk forever.
That's probably what I know him best. Not that that's the only thing he did. Let me look
That
at
and X Factor.
Yeah. X Factor was another big one.
He did something at DC that was like, did he do the really iconic Aquaman where he had like the hook arm in the 90s?
Yes.
I thought that was
yeah, Hulk was like
for like
really
like he did like that for a decade, and he's probably like the quintessential Hulk writer.
Yeah, and probably a lot of stuff that has, well, they barely even scratched the surface, but a lot of stuff that's kind of touched upon in other media, so like movies, TV shows, etc., cartoons, whatever. They've kind of touched upon some of the themes and the things that he did in that.
Because he kind of, I think he was the one
yeah.
that set up Hulk was like abused as a child, like when he was Bruce Banner, he was abused as a child and stuff like that.
Yeah. And he kind of also played a little more like with Hulk and Bruce Banner being kind of separate personalities. I feel like I'm way out of date on comics, so there's like a decade or more of comics that I have to sort through, but I feel like they've also kind of gone off the rails because now there's technically like a dozen different Hulk personalities. There's like Savage Hulk, there's like Devil Hulk, there's like all sorts of crazy shit. But
DC's kind of getting their act together slowly but surely. Marvel is not. I will say Marvel did do something I'm kind of excited about. Need to go find them, but they did some crossovers with Predator and Aliens this year. So they did Aliens vs Avengers, which I'm kind of excited about. Predator vs Wolverine, which Spider-Man vs Predator I'm kind of interested in. But my main event, the one I'm really excited about, is Black Panther vs Predator, because that's like exactly who you'd want Predator to take on. I think he did Young Justice too, which I think is one of my favorite books of the 90s.
Yeah, he did Young Justice. He did just a ton of stuff.
And like I said, X Factor, which is like a very well received series for a long time.
Yeah, Spider-Man 2099. And I noted that because that character is kind of a little more popular and notable with the recent Into the Spider-Verse series.
And he's probably the only character from the 2099 stuff that has had any real like staying power, I'd say.
Yeah, he had an interesting approach, which I would think that if you were a professional writer, you need to have like a structure. And so he'd be like he'd work his day, but he'd like in the morning time he'd work on actually like fiction, like writing novels. In the afternoon he'd do like comic book stuff, which again, like I'm not a writer of any sort, but I've dabbled in writing. But if I were a professional writer, that's probably I'd have to structure. You'd have to structure it. I feel like you'd have to set it out. It's like, all right, I'm going to focus on this from this period. At least that's how I would have to do it. Like I would need some sort of structure. You can't just be like, here, you got 8 hours. Like, dude, I'd probably get not bored, but I'd goof off probably. I'd be like, all right, I've done an hour. Like, let me check my phone or something like that.
I think to be a professional like him, though, it's like, it's not like you're sitting down and doing one project all day. you're probably juggling like 4 or 5 projects at any given time.
Yeah.
And comic scripting, I mean, comics are not like necessarily super easy because you have like to turn and burn real quick, which a lot of people get into trouble with. And as we've seen with like a lot of like crowdfunding from like newbies to comics, like people can't actually get their shit out in like a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
Because there's Kickstarters at this point that are years late. Years.
Oh, like yeah, I haven't done any like this is to tell you, last time I can recall paying for a Kickstarter was probably like maybe 2 to 3, at least 2, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And I think I've gotten like most of that stuff, but like it was a while. And I get like maybe you do it a Kickstarter to even get the funds to like do that, because it's like you want to produce the art, you want to produce the actual book, but is it worth it? Like you're gonna have to pay for certain things, even if you're just writing it or drawing it. Like you gotta pay for like inking it, colors, all that stuff, all that jazz. But I don't know. Yeah, like people who are novice to it, I guess they make mistakes. Who's the dude who does ISOM?
Oh, Eric July.
Eric July, okay. I haven't read any of that stuff or collected any of that. I know there's lots of controversy about him.
It's most of it's manufactured engagement farming. Like I've read a couple of them. The stuff Chuck Dixon's done for him, I've actually enjoyed quite a bit. His stuff is his second one was better than the first one, but like it's nothing. I did not anticipate him being a first time like writer. Like you have to get your legs on it, but I find a lot of the controversy around him is from like comic gators, and there's a couple of things going on there. One, it's people like Ethan Van Sciver that are pissed off that he's making a lot of money because regardless of what you think of the quality of his books, he gets his stuff out when he says he's going to get it out. And like the one time he didn't was because of a hurricane, and he told people how long it was going to take. And then people like Van Sciver see that because their books get less and less support because he takes years to get stuff out. Or even like your boy Zach, who's lost his fucking mind. But I also think there's also a strong undercurrent of racism going on with a lot of the comic gators too.
I know we're kind of digressing, but what really besides that like provides effectively professional jealousy? What was like the undercurrent of why people were upset at him? Is he
because
I know I'm aware of Comicsgate, and I know that there is, which is kind of like, I guess in the moment be kind of controversial. There's like maybe an undercurrent that some of these people are either like kind of tied in the manosphere, or they're hating on comics because comics are too woke, whatever. I know that was like Zach's thing back in the day, which it is or it isn't. Like I think there's a lot of valid commentary about that a lot of these books are just not well done. Yeah, like professionally, like Marvel, DC. Maybe DC's better now, but Marvel, like this, a lot of it's just not good. Like the artwork maybe isn't good. Certainly like the writing isn't good. There's perhaps very poor characterization of characters that have like, some of them have decades of history, and you're people writing them in a way that it's like this completely against. Even if we want to do like, well, I'm putting my own spin on things. It's like, okay, well, you can put a spin on a character that maybe has existed for 50 years, that you don't have to completely break the characterization of it. I know I'm digressing, but the point is like there's criticism to be had about like comics suck or can suck. I gotta criticize that versus like I don't like this book because of its political message. Like you can divorce the two, in my opinion.
His stuff
but
really
was that
isn't
the criticism of his?
No,
was
his stuff's
just
not.
Like,
his stuff's not really
this
political.
Stuff sucks, and I gotta hate on it, or it's what people like trying to lump him in with all the people. It's like this book is too woke.
No, I mean, well, they've tried to pull that one because he's black, and like he has a lot of like minority characters in his book because obviously he would.
He's African American.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Well, so okay, yeah. So what I think the problem is, and where a lot of it comes from, is he's making them look bad. Like, because a lot of these comic gate people, none of them get their shit out. Like Ethan Van Sciver, can't get his frog books out. I think he's like 3 years behind, and they keep doing like new Kickstarters when they haven't. Like, well, Indiegogos, but like a lot of the other Comic Gate books are like years behind. The only other guy who isn't even a Comic Gate guy, he's kind of adjacent, that does American Cayman. Like he gets his stuff out, but the problem is he's making them look bad because so he doesn't do like Indiegogos. He does pre-orders on his own site. So you pre-order, and it's like it's going to release this date, so that's kind of like a hype cycle. And you pre-order, you can still get it afterwards, but then you order it and your stuff comes. But now he's doing that, and these Comic Gate guys can't just jerk off on streams and talk about how great they are, and then you'll get your book when you get your book, because then you have Eric July being like, hey, here's this book, it's coming out next month. And guess what? Next month comes and you got your book.
I think, well, for me, like I'm kind of divorced from the controversy, I guess. To me, it's also like, well, what type of content is being offered? And it seems like he's kind of doing
It's a bit of
relatively
everything.
straightforght.
Like he's had
Is he?
Chuck
'Cause
Dixon. He's had Chuck Dixon has done a couple books. Mike Barron's done a couple books. He's done a book. I can't remember the sisters that he works with, but they've done a book. He did a like a prequel comic. His company at least distributed it for that Gabriel and the Guardians, that like Christian anime that they put out this year that was like really high budget and looked pretty interesting.
And I'm not aware of this at all, but
I'll look it up afterwards. It actually looks really interesting. Like
I guess I'm not aware of all these other properties or other stuff he's done.
I think he just
But it
got a
seems like at least,
statue
like,
put out by McFarlane of one of his characters.
It seemed like at least the initial stuff he was doing seemed straightforward, like superhero stuff.
Yeah, so it's the Chuck Dixon stuff's a little more street level-y, like more the stuff Chuck Dixon's gonna do, because his
I mean, you gotta
Chuck Dixon
you gotta
veers a little more into the espionage thriller category. I think that's where he excels more than he does like straight up superheroes.
But that's so if you're gonna do like multiple titles or multiple stuff, like you do kind of have to like diversify a bit, I think.
It's kind of like his stuff is like, so they're larger books, so they're like, I don't know, they go anywhere from like 50 to 80 pages. So then you have Isom, and then Yara's one, but they you just get like, they'll just pop up with a new one. Like if you go on his site, you'll see like there's a different variety of books, and they're doing their own thing.
Okay.
And I mean, it was
check it out,
expensive, but he's been getting the prices down on his stuff. But a lot of that was because he didn't have like a printer to start with. So he's been getting deals in place and stuff. But a lot of it's just clickbaity, like engagement farming. It's kind of like, he's kind of like the AEW of like comics, but like a lot of the Comic Gate guys, I think there's like a heavy dose of racism in there with a couple of engagement baiters, but then a lot of guys who aren't fulfilling their obligations that are mad that he's making them look bad. Because my thing is, people really try to tie you up on the quality when they talk about that part of it. And it's like, look, the quality doesn't necessarily matter as much when you're fulfilling your obligations. Like you could have the greatest book in the world. It doesn't matter if it's 5 years late. No one's going to buy a second book from you.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. What I was
You've
getting at a
abused
second
their
ago, it's like,
trust is what you've
Yeah.
done.
yeah. What I was getting at is like I probably would be more interested in at least a straightforward superhero book versus like, here's my book about science fiction frogs or whatever Ethan Van Skyer is doing. But that's just me. Like I kind of would.
Van Sciver's
want a little
heavily into
more.
grifting, and I've heard from numerous people that he's a ripoff artist. Like, do not commission from him at cons because he'll just take your money and run half the time.
Arnie, you should have
Yeah.
been in the wrestling business.
Which sucks because I do like when he did like his Green Lantern stuff. I think is pretty good, but he's kind of a pompous windbag with not like much of anything interesting to say. He just likes the sound of his own voice too much. But yeah, that's kind of the issue, I think, is just he gets his stuff out. He does what he says he's going to do. You get what you pay for. and he treats his customers with respect, which a lot of other guys have not been doing. And I think it ups the bar, and you can either bring yourself up to that floor, or you can cry about it.
He's making us look bad. He's like, no.
Yeah.
No, you guys are making yourselves look bad.
Because I bought one of the... Because I bought one of the Jawbreaker books from your boy Zach before he lost his damn mind. And I think it took 4 years to get that book.
What do you mean he lost his mind?
He's just
Briefly.
So he's being pissy because what happened with him is he did not evolve with YouTube, so he still wants to do shitty little videos coughing into a phone mic, you know, instead of doing like heavily produced stuff. Like if you go watch something like a video from like Thinking Critical or like Jester Bell, like watch something they do in relation to comics, then go watch something that he does. And they're doing these things with like scanned images, you know, there's production with the pages going on, and then you get Zach coughing and flipping pages in a comic book.
There are people who have like crazy production values. Like for example, weird segue or weird example, but my wife and I this year watched the second season of Severance. Great show, by the way. But we watched the final episode because the final episode dropped, and we watched it like that weekend. So we watched it within the week that it came out. We watched it, but I think we actually watched it like the day it came out. Like we were so into the show, we wanted to see the finale. And so my wife, like the next day, because I think it dropped on a Thursday. Like the next day, my wife went on like YouTube because we can play YouTube on like my big screen TV. Through like the Samsung, they have apps and there you can download. But we watched YouTube, and it was a dude who had done like a 20-30 minute reaction video about the finale. But it wasn't just like we're talking now. It's like, let me give you my thoughts on this. This dude had produced a video about all the Easter eggs and all the little like tidbits that go back to like all the different seasons and what this could mean for the future or whatever. With like clips, he's like he like there's like a painting in the final episode. He like part of this video was like he took like and he like zoomed in on like the painting and was telling about like, oh, look at all these details and everything like that. And it's like he had to produce all this content within 12 hours. And it's like, dude, but I know maybe these people make a living off of it because you get X number of views on YouTube. Obviously, you're gonna get some of that ad dollars. And if you're talking about a really popular show like Severance, like even more so. But it's like the production values in this, even if this is your day job, it would still take a lot. If this is your job, it would take like a lot of effort to go through everything that he did in this. And it wasn't even it flowed. It wasn't like he's just like making errors. It's like he had to edit this. He had to have like maybe like written a script as what he wanted to talk about. It was a lot. Crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it's years later and you're still just like, let me cough into a microphone on a video that I'm clearly taking on my phone while I'm sitting in my car. Like, yeah, that's not necessarily going to cut it.
Like,
congratulations, you have a video blog.
That's one of the things I bitch about, and I've commented on numerous people. But like, I get really pissy when I turn on like a YouTube video and their sound quality is worse than mine, and they sound like they're from 2010. And it's like, it is not fucking hard to at least not sound like you're talking like through a tin can in like a cave anymore. But he's not that unique. There's a lot of like kind of those has-beens from like a decade ago that are like super bitter about it and stuff just because they didn't evolve with the times. Because the thing is, like, I would say AVGN is like shit now, but he's evolved with the times largely. Like
AVGN Cinemassacre got purchased by some production company, so they just send him scripts now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and he's like, fine, I'm making money off of it.
Yeah, he just wants to. And like, I would say even like he hasn't evolved his production as well, but like even Doug Walker, He's
Mhm.
and he's but like those are like probably the only two that have retained their relevance over like a long period of time.
That's
From that angry
I follow you.
the angry reviewer era, I'd say those are the only two that kind of like.
Well, yeah, but there's more to them than just being angry and ranting about stuff. Believe it or not, like there's actually a little bit more going on, and so in doing that, Nostalgia Critic has some lovable Doug Walker, I should say, has some lovable buffoonery in part of his stuff, and the nerd. Yeah, it's rage reviewing, but then on the other hand, it's like, so what? This was the guy,
But they've
like
also
one of the very first ones.
But he's also like, if you watch like Movie Bob, who I hate his guts, but if you watch like Movie Bob, his sound quality is still shit. He still sounds like a reviewer from 15 years ago. Like that's the other reason like people like AVGN and Doug have stayed relevant is because they keep like their production values go up. They know how to play the thumbnail game. They don't just rest on their laurels.
Yeah, it doesn't actively. It's a phrase I'm looking for here. It's not actively insulting to you to listen to to listen to their stuff.
Yeah, and I think people, you're seeing a lot of it now because a lot of these people that kind of blew up during COVID are losing their minds because they have to get a real job now. But like, I think what people don't understand either is it's really hard to stay relevant. Like, it's really easy to get popular, but to retain that popularity for any length of time is like extremely difficult.
So you're going to have someone who's plugging along gets a big spike in viewership because it's the hot new thing or goes viral or whatever you want to say. Great. But then if they want to be able to hang in there and keep going, what they're going to need to do is find a way to have a core audience that they hang on to. And
we obviously have like a weekly episodic show that does different topics, but some of these people that crank stuff out, it's like, I feel like it's too much. And
they burn out though, because like with this show, like if I wanted this show to be bigger, I mean, I'm not saying we blow up. I could get us monetized really quick, but we would have to engagement bait. Like, cause like last week's show is a great example. Like NWA Grand Slam, like we're not going to catch a ton of views for that, but I don't give a shit because I wanted to talk about it. Like, I don't want to sit here. I don't want to sit here and like talk about WWE and AEW every week.
Wait. Hang on. Let me do this properly. Let me do a thumbnail pose. We'd have to have a thumbnail pose. It's like, which former world champion said this?
And now that
now I have to pick a picture of Tony Khan going like, and like, you won't believe what Tony Khan said.
Because you watch some of those guys. I'm not going to name any names, but you watch some of those guys, and they have no passion for it.
No.
Like they seem so bored, and like they're probably going to be gone in 2 years after this falls off more. But like you listen or watch stuff with like the flagship guys, like they don't give a shit. They'll talk about whatever the fuck they want to talk about.
Yeah.
Same with
guys, I have something in my throat. Brian Alvarez.
No, see, I think, but see, the thing is with them though, Alvarez is different, and why I think he hangs on is because Alvarez runs his stuff like kind of like a radio morning show. Like that's where I've always given him props versus a lot of other people, because like Alvarez, they have like characters, they have like a revolving cast of like people they bring on. Like he runs his is more like, I see his as more just like a radio show that just happens to talk about wrestling.
It's a daily radio show, and he's burnt out. There's going to be a certain amount of churn.
But my criticism of him is that he's burnt out, and so he's ostensibly he's paid, he makes money reviewing, talking about shows, and there's such an understated that people don't really talk about that he just does not want to do it, and he doesn't really do it well. Like there was a whole exchange like 2 weeks ago, like before Double or Nothing, that he's like, oh, like I think Mercedes is gonna wrestle AZM Azumi, on Double or Nothing, and Dave had to pause him. It's like she's in the finals of the Owen Cup, like it's already been established, and it's like it's so clear that Brian doesn't fucking watch the show or pay attention half the time. That's why he's always complaining about AEW. It's like they need more clips and recaps. It's like, yeah,
See, I disagree.
That's all the shit you watch on WWE.
See, I disagree with that assessment. I think he watches. I think the problem he's having is he's burnt out and he watches too much stuff. Because I'm sympathetic when he forgets stuff. Like all the time when I take notes on a show, like last week, I had to run panicking back to check something because I just happened to not write down the finish to a match and I forgot who won. And that's watching one show for the week that I don't watch any wrestling between them. Like there's all the time where even when we're doing USW, like, oh, I remember that. We get on the show. I don't remember it. Like if it doesn't, like if it's not in my notes, like the chances of me forgetting it, like thinking I'll remember the context of some feud, there's all the times where like Shadow correct me and I'm like, fuck, I didn't write that down.
We have a group chat. I mean, obviously, hopefully we would, right? That while I'm watching or whatever we're going to do for the week, I put thoughts into it. It's like, I know I'm going to say this whenever we do the show, but I put the thoughts in there because that helps me remember it. I have to mentally process it through my fingers, whether I'm writing it or I'm typing it. And then that way I can look at it and be like, okay, I can remember this. But I'm good about story beats, I think I'm good about story beats. Whereas, Brad, you're really good at details, and Matt, you kind of mix the two. So it's we forget stuff. It happens. Or we're feeling bad at the time we watched it, and so we don't remember things very well. That sort of thing happens.
Or your dog or your kid's like destroying something off screen and you're like trying to see if like you need to abandon ship to address it or if it like will solve itself. The other thing is that's the other reason I'm sympathetic when like people jump on something Meltzer says on air and I'm like, or anyone, and there's a lot of times like, oh, you've never had to talk into a microphone for a recording or live entertainment before because you obviously don't understand the, oh my God, there's dead air. I have to say, I have to choke something out, or, oh, I'm brain locking mid-sentence that I need to like finish this thought out.
So that's one of the things that we run into here is because obviously doing a talk show doesn't work when you don't talk.
Yeah.
And does Dave sometimes have bad takes? Yeah. But another thing I see happen in a lot of cases is people do bad faith takes on something Dave said. So there's no context. It's like, oh, wow, okay, so that's not actually what he said at all. And I have a little sympathy for Alvarez. Number one, I like the way he conducts the show as overall. I think he conducts the show well. Usually does a pretty good job. Then sometimes it's like, dude, he's having a bad week or he's reaching or something. It's like, man, because this is so weird because I don't watch Observer Radio like I did at one point, but
no, I don't either. I'm kind of burnt out on modern wrestling, so I don't watch it.
I don't watch it at all. Like
it was a couple of years ago. Not a couple. It was the Rock, Roman, Cody build thing, and he was 100% certain that the Rock's going to turn on Roman because they get in the ring, and when the Bloodline did the point, they did it like this, and he did it like this, and he's signaling something with it, and I'm like, dude, no. That's just not. And guess what? It didn't. But the guy has to watch so much stuff all the damn time and fill all this air that you're going to get bad takes. It's just going to happen.
If you went back and listened to, I wouldn't recommend doing it. But like we have hundreds of hours. I mean, thousands of hours.
Don't go back to the early stuff.
But like, we probably have over 1,500 hours of us talking into a microphone. And I bet you wouldn't have to go very far for one of us to say something stupid. Like it's just.
I can tell you one of mine was when he had like one or two matches, and I was like, oh, Logan Paul, like he's gonna be somebody, because I'm thinking like, oh, he's gonna actually take it seriously, and because he has athleticism, he actually has legit athleticism, that if he was like, you know what, I really like professional wrestling, like I want to get like properly trained and I want to do the whole thing, like I think he actually could have developed into like a good worker, and he's basically he cosplays as a wrestler and everything
because they don't force him to do anything.
insanely. He doesn't have to.
Yeah,
He
because
just wants to.
they coddle him.
Yeah,
And he gets to rehearse his matches ahead of time.
So he'll have like half a dozen matches a year, and he'll still be featured. Make a lot of money, etc. But yeah, he didn't develop. But I was like, oh yeah, like he could be somebody. Like because does. It's not that he lacks talent. He actually because he is like an actually athletic guy. Like legitimately, his brother is kind of hateable like he is, but they're both very athletic people. Like we talked about the fight he did with Tyson, which was like a sham, but I mean he does have some boxing ability. It's different. You don't have to be like as good as the best boxers
He got
in
in
the
too
world
late.
have ever been.
He has.
You don't have to be that to not be at least like of a certain skill. That's the thing. People always like. It's like he is better than probably most of you guys. Does that mean he can compete at the level of the top people, top boxers? No.
He has
but that's still
technical. He has the technical proficiency that if you're not like that, then he's gonna own an amateur. The other secret to Alvarez though that people need to realize is, Brian Alvarez is part work. Like Alvarez plays a heel. He is always a heel to some degree. When he's writing, he's on air or whatever, he's always played, because people are like, well, he's always kind of inflammatory. And then once you like see him work a little bit, it's like, oh yeah, he's just kind of, he's throwing a bit of that like heel persona in there.
Just a little bit piss you off, so you'll rage watch sometimes.
Yeah. But like I said, I'm
at the point I don't really care to rage watch anymore, so it's like
if I was more interested in like modern wrestling, I would watch more. That's my problem.
My problem is that by the very nature of their stuff, half of it is going to be for product that I don't care about. And then the other half is going to kind of be like, how do I best put this? There's some bad faith actors that roll into it because like, well, my sources at AEW say that the locker room's all disgruntled. It's like, who told you that? Because, here I am, something from PW Insider I just stumbled across. It's like, during Anarchy in the Arena, like, people, all the guys on the card who haven't gone out yet are in the back, like, around the monitors, singing Bodies by Drowning Pool while the arena thing's going on because they're all into it. It's like, gee, yeah, that sounds like a real unhappy locker room.
But Chad, like that, to go to the point is like, oh, Brian Alvarez is working heel. It's like, but that was the story from Brian Alvarez, like up until like maybe 3 months ago. That was the story for Brian Alvarez. Like every like AEW pay-per-view, it's like or at least for like a year or two, it was like, oh, like the guys in the back, like they're really like disgruntled, and it's like
somebody was feeding him something to try and.
Well, it also not to really like point fingers, or I guess I'd speculate, but it's like, okay, you get rid of all like the old NXT black and gold folks, Rusev, Malachi, even Andrade, and it's like all of a sudden a lot of that stuff disappeared. So I don't know that it was them, but it's like I think Tony Khan has kind of righted the ship a little bit by kind of trimming the fat a bit, or maybe it was Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks isn't there anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say, just as a hypothetical.
Yeah, but Ricky
I'm
Starks
not saying
had
this
been
is the
in
case.
The building for like a year, so I don't know.
Yeah, if Ricky Staints was, that's just, it amuses me to say that out loud.
I hate that name.
Ricky Staints.
I hate that name. Like, why wouldn't you just keep Starks?
If it was, because Zoe Stark is already on the roster.
Who gives a shit? No one cares about her.
I know. Hey, look, man, I'm not arguing with you about it. I'm just telling you the WWE mindset on it. If his name had been Ricky Saint, it would have been a million times better. But not my point. If, let's just say that someone who's on the roster, and in this hypothetical, it was Ricky Staints who was saying, oh yeah, there's lots of essential people arguing all the time. okay, you've got someone who is by all by all rights probably in the know about it, who's passing along bad faith info. And so, it's like whenever something about Punk comes out, you can tell it's about Punk because it's like they want to re-sign him to a. Tell him this, guys. They want to re-sign me to a long-term deal, and I'm going to take HBK's job running NXT. Yeah, tell everybody that. It's like, no, that's not happened. It isn't going to happen.
Oh, if I
that sort of stuff.
just I know that's never going to happen, but that would be such a bad idea and such an immense downgrade.
Oh, I would sit and laugh as it
because
just burned away.
I have my problems with Shawn Michaels as a person, but like he seems like he's actually kind of doing an okay job, and he seems.
It seems to me that Shawn
seems to give a crap about the people.
Yeah. The problem is their training system has them rehearsing their stuff.
No, I mean, I'm not going to talk about the merits of the workers they produce because you could put anyone in Sean's spot and it's going to be garbage because of how they want them trained.
But my point is that if you have someone who, by all rights, is a credible source passing you this information first, and you do a daily show, well, what are you going to talk about? Well, I got information from a credible source. And then something comes along later and refutes it. What's the thing I would do in that place is go, well, this is what was told from one credible source, but here comes 3 others that are telling me this. So I guess the first one was just wrong. Just own it and say, I got it from a credible source, and I don't know how long they'll stay credible if they keep doing that.
I think the locker room morale stuff, I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily worth reporting on in that position anymore because like when you get like little tidbits about the backstage of WWE, it sounds just as dysfunctional. It's just that they have all these people sweeping for them out there.
Yeah.
But I wonder what a lot of those people are going to do though, because like, I mean, I'm going to say I was dead wrong. I'll give a bad take. I thought the John Cena as a heel champion thing was going to be interesting. And boy, did I fucking get that one wrong. And you know what? I'm going to be honest here. I'm not even going to blame Triple H. It's all on Cena.
No, I can blame Triple H.
But Cena's not making it work.
No, it isn't a one-person problem. But beyond that, it's like it is also Triple H because it's like, why are you booking John Cena versus Randy Orton?
Yeah, that was
Why are
bad.
you doing John Cena for like your show that's on like national TV, right?
Yeah.
Because isn't it Saturday Night Main Event on NBC or is it on,
it's on NBC and Peacock.
Okay, so maybe it's simulcast, but if it's on like actual network TV, you're gonna do John Cena versus R-Truth
and give it 4 minutes. 4 minutes.
Well, that's a John Cena problem.
Well, maybe, but I mean, you probably would only going to give that 5 minutes. But even like
Jey Uso versus Logan Paul.
But I mean, you can't find other people besides R-Truth. I know, like from a storyline perspective, it made kind of sense. Do that in Raw then.
I mean, at least
like for an actual network show, you can't have like a bigger name against John Cena than R-Truth.
At least he didn't break R-Truth's face trying to do his finisher.
Yeah. So, here I got a recent bad take for you that's in a similar vein. After how awesome the heel turn was, I thought heel New Day was going to be something new and really interesting.
No, that's
hey, guess what? They shoved it in a drawer for a month.
A month longer than that, right?
I'm
sorry. Again, like people can hate on me all they want, but I mean, how much smoke does there have to be before there's a fire regarding Triple H and how he books certain people of certain ethnic?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I never had high hopes for it because like I was like, oh, that's exciting, and then I was like, oh, they're black. This isn't gonna go anywhere.
That's the thing that kills me. This is something that WWE does and has done, And I know I said it a million times in the early years of us doing this show. I say early years because we're, what, 6 now? Something?
7.
Damn. Something big, and guys do a great job, and it's this big, hot thing. And, it should be a springboard to go on, and then they cool it off. And whenever they come back around to it, like, oh, yeah, we should do that thing. And it's like, well... Great,
Yeah, but you have like 4 matches a show now. So like, what do you like? Even if you take out what Matt, who I think is a leading voice in discussing. When you take out that portion of it, though, like where do you put them? You don't have matches on TV or pay-per-views anymore.
That's also a huge problem.
That's insane though. Just in general, it's like, okay, if you're having like a 2-hour NBC special. Yeah, by all means, do like 4 matches. Like it makes sense to pare it down. You could do 5. I wouldn't do necessarily more than that. You can
4 or 5 matches and one of them doesn't even crack 5 minutes. Like that is maddening to me.
Well,
it is, but I mean, for an actual pay-per-view, or perennial live event, like that, they can set the time, and they're usually like 4 or 5 hours, at least 4. To have like 4 to 5 matches, like that's bullshit. You're not running like every one is like a 45-minute match, which would be kind of crazy itself. But I mean, you're not doing that. Like you're running like at most like 15, 20-minute matches in a 4-hour span, like 4 to 5 20-minute match. Like you're doing, it's almost like you're doing basically like an hour to an hour and a half of actual ring time for like a 4-hour show. Like, come on.
Yeah, because I think
like that's bullshit.
I mean, I don't miss like I don't like it when you start getting into like 12 or 14 match shows. I think that starts to go the other direction. But like I think if you're doing like I think you should be aiming for 3 to 4 matches an hour, with 3 probably being preferable unless there's some squashes mixed in there. So if you're doing like a 2-hour show, 6 to 8 matches, 3-hour pay-per-view, probably 8 matches is probably your sweet spot for like a pay-per-view.
I remember the frustration of WCW having advertisements for the pay-per-view while you're watching the pay-per-view. And it's like, what the hell are you all doing?
Yeah.
But this is... we're already there at the show. They're already bought in. We don't need a 10-minute recap on the feud that got to the match. God, can we have some more in-ring stuff?
Well, that's what I don't get when they do that, because I mean, I think you should have some recap, but like I know you'd get some viewers that probably don't watch the weekly TV, especially WWE. I don't imagine a lot of their people watch all the weekly TV because you can get the highlights on YouTube and stuff, but I get it in that sense, but you don't need 5 minutes. You just need to hit the beats and get to the match.
Yeah, that used to be something they were really good at. They used to do really good, short, punchy, 90 to 120 second, video packages. They used to be really, really good at that, and now they just drag on and on and on.
Because sometimes,
on and on.
I know we joke about it sometimes, but I do get annoyed at times when AEW doesn't recap stuff for you. Like they don't do it enough. Like they're the other end of the spectrum. They're better. They're better this year. They've been better about everything this year. Like I think they're better at follow up. They're not doing like last year. Like where my annoyance with their lack of recaps, like last year, it was like, oh, they did this hot angle with the Bucks, and oh, they'll be back for 3 weeks, and we're not going to do any recaps of it to keep you.
We've absolutely criticized them for that, and that's something that
they're better this year.
They are, but we've criticized recently with the John Cena thing, where it's like, oh my, because you're right, like the heel turn has been terrible, but the turn was like really one of the better angles they've done in years, and it was really interesting. And then it's like, oh my god, John Cena turned heel, like that's so crazy, and it's like, let's hear him talk about the turn 3 weeks from now. It's like, no.
And then it's a You People promo.
You got to have him on Raw the next night.
You got
to have him on Raw, even if it's like he's after the show you had him booked on, you paid him to like cut a promo that like a 5-minute promo or segment, and we'll just air it on Raw. You got to do that. They didn't do that.
I am 100% convinced that the John Cena heel turn was rushed a month early. That John Cena was supposed to turn heel at Mania, but what they did is they since they called The Rock in because the Elimination Chamber ticket sales were flagging, they just did it then, and it's like
I think they
Raw.
they did it too because the Mania was kind of floundering in the build-up, and they needed something to spark.
Oh yeah, and
something.
it didn't sell out. It didn't. I mean, Rock. I guess you can choose to not believe him, but he confirmed that. He said that's exactly what happened. Like,
no,
he didn't say.
The flagship did a look, and like the surge in ticket sales was abnormally large because they added him, so it was obvious they.
Yeah, no, but Rock didn't specifically say like the turn was done early because ticket sales for Mania sucked, or that the turn was supposed to happen at Mania, but he basically did flat out say like, yeah, they called me up because ticket sales weren't going, so like they wanted me to be part of an angle. And he left it at that, but it's like, what was the angle? Oh, he got Cena to turn heel. It's like, okay, like then they did do it early, and it did drum up interest. But to go back to what you're talking about AEW not recapping, like we've talked about that before. They have gotten better. I would say I don't need a lot of recaps. The problem that they have, which I've also criticized AEW for, and they've done it worse in the past, especially like the last year. They have gotten better. This year it's so much better, but
they're doing a lot of stuff better this year. Like,
well, especially like in the Continental Classic. Sorry, they do these they'd have guys win or lose. Usually, like the guys who would like lose, they'd have them cut this like really intense, like interesting, awesome promo. Or if you're gonna go back even further than that, like Jeff Jarrett, when Jeff Jarrett was talking about how like he wants to win the Owen because he was such good friends with Owen, like he'd cut a promo and everything like that. And this stuff would be like really good, really compelling, and they'd post it to like their Twitter, and it wouldn't really make it on TV. And it's like, wow, no, like you should just carve out 5 minutes on one of these shows and put it on that. And I know like if you have to cut something, it's like, look, I know you're trying to do something with her, she's interesting, but it's like if you got to cut out a Harley Cameron segment for like something that'll get like Daniel Garcia over, like maybe do that.
Look, you could.
You don't have to do it every week, but you know,
you could shave a little bit off of a lot of MJF segments, and it would be fine.
Oh, you could. Yeah, there was a TNA.
I like MJF, but yes, you don't need like 20 minutes MJF. Like,
yeah.
Lighten this up.
Speaking of Jeff Jarrett, you just reminded me. There was a TNA pay-per-view when he like first came back after his wife died, and they did this whole segment like about it, and then him talking about losing his wife before the main event. They killed the main event because the crowd was like crying, and then they weren't into like the main event because they kind of hit them in the feels a little too much. But no, you could just chuck the MJF stuff at this point.
Just give it a break, even if just for a week, man. And
the Hurt Syndicate thing with him was funny, where Tony Khan like ratted him out, but even that was too long.
Yeah, you can make a little less time.
I don't.
Also, why is it?
Admit, I'm not a big fan of the Hurt Syndicate stuff.
Why is it that Bobby Lashley has so much more personality whenever he's not in the WWE? ... I did like that Leo Rush shouted out that they had past association, which you wouldn't see at WWE.
Okay, just to pick on something real quick. Every time somebody new comes out, they'll say MJ or MVP. We know each other. We got history. I respect you, but I got to say something. It's like, why don't you come out there and say MVP? I've known you for a long time. You were a prick then. You're a prick now. Why is everybody sucking up the MVP every time?
I'm fine with
come on, man.
I'm fine with like Dustin doing it because that's kind of Dustin. Like when Dustin Rhodes does that, it makes sense within his character.
Yeah, it makes sense for Dustin, sure.
Or someone like Samoa
Joe. Leo.
Samoa Joe could go out there and be like, I don't like you. I never liked you.
Yeah. Then again, Samoa Joe can almost do no wrong, it seems like.
I I think the Hurt Syndicate fills a niche that they needed, and they're a lot different. They seem like they. What I also like about them versus a lot of the other WWE cast-offs is they are approaching their stuff like they have something to prove.
Yeah.
Like they have a chip on their shoulder about how they got treated on the way out, and they bring that to the show in a good way, I think. They do not need to bring in Cedric. No, keep. I know they're gonna do it, but like if you want your audience to fall asleep or lose consciousness, you can bring Cedric Alexander out.
So I don't care for the Hurt Syndicate because they have how can I best put this? It was during the Big Bill Brian Keith feud was that they basically they come out there to cut a promo to say, hey, we got a point to prove and we're going to challenge you. And MVP especially immediately tried to cut Bill's nuts off and little brother Brian Keith just straight out of the gate, not taking him seriously, talking mad shit at him. And I'm just like, dude, what are you doing? You are Britt Bakering this new angle you're supposed to do.
Oh, I hated that. Well, you haven't seen Britt Baker since she like sabotaged that whole Serena Deeb thing. But I told you I've talked about it on the show before, and I know he's gone crazy, but it still is some of the best advice. It's 101, but it's some of the best advice I've heard from Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette did a shoot, and it's like you got to talk up your opponent. Like I don't care who you are, face or heel, you got to talk up your opponent. Because if you go out there and you cut a promo, face or heel, if you cut a promo where you're like, this dude's a clown, like screw this guy, whatever, he's a jobber, like who cares about him? And then if you beat them, then it's like, well, what have you gained? You beat a clown. You should have beat a clown.
Yep.
And if they beat you, it's like, well, you just lost to a clown. So you should go out there and you should say something to build up your opponent in some way. Yeah. And the example I wish I've mentioned, I feel, on the show before, but like going back years ago at this point, when it was the mini tournament where Mox was trying to win the interim championship, whatever, after the whole Punk nonsense.
Yeah.
And he was facing Samuel Guevara. That was his opponent going to be. And did anyone think that he was gonna lose to Samuel Guevara? No. Like everyone expected him to win. He cut a promo, and the promo was basically that, look, Sammy is, he's young, he's talented, he's faster than me, he can do more things than me. It's building him up. And he's like, you know what though? I got the heart of this, I'm gonna beat him. So it's he's still is taking the attitude, it's I'm gonna beat this dude.
Yep.
But he was hyping up, it's yeah, look, he can do so many things, man. He could get me, but he won't because I'm me. You can do it a certain way. So yeah. I get it. It's don't go in there and be whatever, these chumps.
I think
that does no purpose. That serves no purpose for anyone.
I think my only disagreement with that is, and it's the exception, is if the point of it is that you got beat by a clown, then you can do it. If it's James Ellsworth, and then you're AJ Styles, and you're just oh yeah, this guy's a clown, and then the guy you're feuding with comes out, and Ellsworth pins you, and then you freak the fuck out.
That is the exception, though.
Or even if you did a long-term angle where you keep doing it and the guy keeps beating you, and you just get progressively more unhinged because you can't beat the guy. I think.
What? Hey, that's the classic 1, 2, 3 kid Razor Ramon thing, where it's this guy's a jobber and then he beats you, and it's you got beat by a jobber. That's the exception. You're playing and it's this guy shouldn't have beat me. And for whatever reason you're arrogant, whatever. You're trying to do something. Yeah. But generally speaking, don't clown on your opponent.
My favorite version of this was from Jericho's first book. It's what Bulldog Bob Brown said to him. Is Jericho cut a promo, and he's he's old, he's fat, he's out of shape, I'm going to beat him. And Bob Brown comes back at her and goes, what the hell are you doing? And Jericho's I thought I cut a good promo. He goes, listen to me, you little shit. If you were to beat me, now you've beat a fat, old, out-of-shape guy. But when I beat you, not if now, but when now, you just got beat by an old, fat, out-of-shape guy. What are you worth? And I'm just to me, I think that's my favorite example, and it illustrates the same point, but it's one of those veteran moments where it makes the point very well. It's an object lesson, but it doesn't, cut somebody's nuts off, I guess.
Unless you're Scott Steiner and you're making Sting laugh in the background. You're like, he's fat!
He's fat.
All right. So go ahead, Matt.
But can I go one last thought? Just to touch
Yep.
on something we talked about like 15 minutes ago at this point. I looked it up just for giggles. The New Day turned heel at least by December of last year. So now they've been heel.
I think
like
it might
6
have been the
months.
first week of January.
No, they kicked out Bobby Lashley in December. No, it's not Bobby Lashley. I'm
Big
sorry.
E. Oh,
Big E.
okay.
Big E.
So they didn't do it on
I had
Netflix.
Bobby Lashley on the brain talking about Hurt Syndicate.
Oh, they should have done that in
Uh,
the first episode of Netflix. That was dumb.
Yeah, that probably would have been a bigger deal. But they kicked out Big E in December, so that was like at least by then it was the turned heel. They didn't win the tag titles off the War Raiders until April 19th WrestleMania. And it's like you turned them heel and then had them heel for like 4 months.
I don't think they even wrestled for like a
then had-
month after they.
Oh no, and then had them win the titles, and then it's like, what have they done since then?
I don't think you even saw them. Well, so I don't think they even were on TV much. I don't think either of them were in the Rumble, and I don't even think they wrestled on the Rumble show. I could be wrong on
I don't
that.
think so.
Like
well, regardless,
they
that's
might
still
have been.
not doing anything with the angle.
Yeah.
So, to our main point tonight, I have a question for the context of this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were going to talk about the greatest of the modern era. We need to define how far from modern day back we're calling the modern era.
I'm just gonna say 2000 to today is which I would consider the modern era.
So, someone who's the majority of their career was in that time frame.
Yeah, we'll say post
So that's-
WCW.
Okay, so that's by that logic, I'm going to say that's going to discount. I would say that discounts Bret Hart. That discounts Austin's best work was.
I would consider those 90s
it's
guys.
split. Yeah. That's what I was saying, in terms of context. So
We're strictly we're strictly. So what I'm thinking of for this era is we're talking about primarily guys that cut their teeth in, like Ring of Honor came up through OVW, maybe cut their teeth in New Japan,
or TNA.
Yeah. So those are the kind of guys we're talking about here, because that's what I think of the modern era. I'm guessing maybe the AEW birth is gonna be like a new era as we get going, or the post Vince era. It's probably gonna be something new, but like I pretty much consider the modern era post WCW.
Okay. All right. So
And I would just say for the sake of this argument, I was gonna not talk too much about Bryan Danielson or Kenny Omega because I think they're unquestionably like in the
they're
pantheon
kind
and
of
like
above.
and I mean I think Omega this year especially is just proving that he's on a different level as a human being.
I was not even giving, for a while, I did not put Omega close to Danielson until I sat down and really paid attention to some Omega stuff. And the thing that I discovered from watching very closely is not just that he has an offense that's tailored around being broadly applicable to just about everybody he'd wrestle, but it looks good, but it's also pretty safe.
It's
Watching Omega do, like, because I was frustrated because it looked like, he would V-trigger and just knock the hell out of somebody. And then I sat down and started watching him very closely, and I'm like, oh. And the Snapdragons are a great visual spot, but they are done in such a way that they're not going to kill the guy you're doing it to. That sort of stuff.
And he has a very he's a lot like Flair and Danielson and Hart. If you really dig into them versus like a lot of indie-rific guys, their offenses are very simplistic. Like the moves are effective, they look good, but they're also, you can string them together in numerous combinations. You can do them to anyone. You can do them in multiple different situations. Like it's very flexible. It's very
Yeah.
simplified. Like you don't have to, it's not like those moves you see that take like 5 minutes of wind up just to get the move off.
He's got a meat and potatoes base, which is always going to work, and then he can put fancy stuff on top of it. Okay, so I'm going to guess you guys had some names on lists, right?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about who I think is probably deserving of being on the GOAT list and has an incredible body of work, and for some reason I don't think he quite gets the love he deserves, and that's Rey Mysterio Jr.
By the way, I'm going to call this the just for whoever's with us. This is not the GOAT list. This is the GOTE, greatest of this era.
Because when you think about, well, I mean, we you would have to go past the modern era, but when you look at like his really young stuff in AAA, it's amazing. His stuff with Psychosis is amazing, but like through the aughts, he was like just putting out like solid to good stuff in the WWE formula. Like I think he might actually be the most consistent and best at the WWE like TV style when you start like really digging into like the quantity of like good matches.
Interesting.
Ray?
Yeah. Cuz you have the SmackDown 6 stuff, you have the later Eddie stuff. You have there's a lot. Like he's just got a lot of stuff going.
It bothers me because he got that what's the phrase I'm looking for here? He got that spite world title reign where they're like, yeah, sure, and you won the title. Guess what? By the way, we're just going to kill you repeatedly.
Yeah.
With Mark Henry and Great Khali and crap like that.
Because he's little.
Yeah. Never mind the fact that he's exciting and fun to watch. He's little. I'm like, oh god.
And he was a massive draw for them amongst like the Hispanic audience for forever, to the point that they're still trying to replace him and they can't.
Well, because Rey Mysterio, I'm going out on a limb, but I think you could probably say that Rey Mysterio is going to be the best crossover lucha wrestler of all time. Like, this is a guy who was very much a lucha guy and then was able to cross over into Japan and the rest of North America, doing that kind of style and really dragging people in that in a way that nobody else pulled off.
Yeah, because I would not think of Eddie as a lucha guy. Eddie was a very Americanized worker. I don't see him as like, because Rey was strictly a lucha guy. Like he was strictly a lucha guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like even like Eddie's family members were, I wouldn't consider them lucha guys either. So I would say Eddie is probably, I would consider like Eddie is like a worker is probably a little better than Rey, but I don't consider him a lucha guy. I consider him like, he's kind of in that same camp as like, you know, the Voldemorts and the Malenkos and that kind of group of guys.
Oh, very, very high-paced technical style.
But but he wasn't birthed strictly out of lucha, even though he did lucha stuff.
I'm following you. Okay. Let's see. Well, I mean, there is at least one. Okay, I have to ask this question because whenever I was thinking about it, I had this thought and I was like, I have to ask if this guy would qualify or not. But how much of his career falls into this time frame? How much of Hiroshi Tanahashi's career is in this time frame?
All of it.
All of it?
Yeah,
Yes.
pretty much all of it.
Yeah, he might have done some
Okay.
young boy stuff, but like he was doing his big push, like I think started around 02, 03.
Okay.
I know
And
he was when I started watching, he was just starting to like come up.
And is Tanahashi? Would you consider Tanahashi bigger, better, all that good stuff than? And I know the answer is probably yes, but I'm saying out than, for example, Naito.
Naito,
I would.
yeah, for me it would be Okada would be the top, and then Tanahashi would be the next one.
I would agree with that. So
Here.
caveat.
I'm going to show you.
Caveat.
This is written down right there. You see, I had both of those on there.
Yeah. Caveat.
Okay.
I don't feel like I have ever quite got Naito. So I would rank him lower than a lot of people probably would, just in general, because it's like I don't know. I don't know what it is about him, but I've never thought he was like the be all end all that some people do. And even I think a lot of people would, if they're honest, they'd rank Okada and Tanahashi higher than Naito
His
in terms of actually like work, but as a character, as like a cool factor, whatever, they might pick like Naito more. And it's like I'm saying even that, like I have never got Naito. Like he's never like resonated with me. So I don't know.
So Tanahashi's debut was on October 10th, 1999. He lost to Shinya Makabe.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna be real honest. I have not seen enough Naito to form an opinion, and all of the Tanahashi stuff I've seen has been here on the tail end of his career.
Naito does not have the consistency, I feel, is what works against him. Like he has some really outstanding stuff, but like he had this awesome match with Okada, like for Okada's first defense when he won the title, that I feel like really cemented that Okada could work at that level. And they've never had a match that's touched that since. That's what you get with Naito. I feel like his match with Jericho were good, but they weren't as good as like the Omega matches. I like Naito a lot, but like I just don't think he's ever quite. I always feel like he falls a little short for me.
Okay, so Tanahashi and Okada both.
I'd put them in the absolute discussion for last 25 years. Absolutely, I would rank Okada higher.
Okay.
Tanahashi's like probably 10 years older, but Tanahashi is up there. And while I put Okada higher, like Tanahashi was consistently fantastic and a very high level. I've tried to think like in my mind I thought just what is the equivalent of Tanahashi compared to like American wrestlers?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't quite stack up, but think of it this way: if you're not as familiar with Tanahashi, like think he's a better worker, so it's not quite that. But think of almost like he is effectively like he's like almost the Japanese equivalent of this last 20 years, 25 years of like John Cena, but a better worker, and he never like left. Like he just stayed around. He didn't go to like I'm gonna go be a entertainment star.
Would it
like
be?
He kind of just stayed.
And he really
maybe that's the best analogy. That if
he led them out of the
maybe
dark ages. I think Cena's about the best. But like he led them out of like some real dark ages, and like his first couple years were a little unsteady, but like he largely is what brought them back and like kicked off there.
I reference Cena because it's like is Tanahashi a better worker than Cena? Yes, but he's the same almost in like the cultural impact, because Cena, I mean, obviously with his forays into like Hollywood, and him kind of coming in when wrestling was a little more popular in some respects than it is now, but like he has probably more name value or star power, and he was like the star before like Okada came in and it kind of displaced him a bit, but he was like the guy. But unlike Cena, like he stuck around, and obviously he's still part of it. He's still the president. He's in his his
retirement run,
and he is a guy who, like, again, I love Tanahashi, but if you watch modern Tanahashi, like he is spent. Like he
still busts.
barely.
He still busts something out.
He can try, but I mean, his body is hurting.
Yeah,
hurting.
they've been
And he's
hiding
not-
him, and they've been hiding him in trios for almost a decade now because his like shoulders are fucked. Because I
Oh, and
remember we
I think
watched
his-
that
Yeah,
Omega match they did at the Dome that was like 5 stars. That was like I don't know how he pulled that off because his shoulders have been
that-
trash for like
Oh,
forever.
and that was like 5 years ago at this point. That was
5 or 6. Yeah, that might have been
I'm looking it up.
2020.
He's 48. His birthday is actually 2 days before mine, so he will be turning 49 this year, and he's not that. There's not that big of a difference in age
Yeah.
between him and me. Sad to say.
I would say
Um,
for Japan, Kota Ibushi would be right under them. He'd be my next one.
Kota Ibushi, I would rank high, and he had a lot of great years, and he I think was on the level that if he had not injured his shoulder and there was the whole weirdness that happened
Yeah.
with him and New Japan, we'd be having the same conversation because he would have been ruling New Japan probably for the last like 4 or 5 years.
And if he would have been healthy to stay with AEW, I think
Yeah.
that would have helped him a lot.
He just posted a video in like last week of him like doing like standing moonsaults or other sort of like flips and stuff like that. I mean, he's at this point he's old. He's like in his early 40s, I think.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
he's
Like he
been-
looks probably the best in shape and healthy he's looked in a long time. So I don't know. I mean, I that him being able to do like a bunch of like standing flips doesn't equate to like what can you do in the wrestling ring. And I'm not hating. I'm just saying like I can do a workout at the Orange Theory down the street, but I don't know that I could do the physicality of a wrestling match, like especially at the high level that we're used to. So, but I'm hoping he can kind of still come back and have put some good stuff if it's safe for him to do it. Like I love these guys. I love a lot of these guys. I like, even if we don't include him as the GOAT, like Brian as in the discussion, like Brian Danielson. I love Brian Danielson. Like I've loved him for like 20, 25 years. I don't necessarily need him to step foot in a wrestling ring again if that's the safest thing for him.
No, I
Like,
could have done without.
It's like, Brian, I love you. Like I've seen you have amazing matches that I will cherish forever. Like you don't need to die in the ring. You don't need to cripple yourself. Like you can just you've done it. It's like
I would have been fine if he'd stayed away personally. Like when he had his-
If
he made the choice and he came back and he had a hell of, if that's his
He did,
retirement run,
but
he
I
had
think-
such an amazing retirement run.
But I think
But yeah,
I think if he had said like I'm done, like I still kind of wish he hadn't. Like it was a good run, but there's a part of me that's like, how much did you further damage your brain with that run?
that's a fair statement, but I'm in the same boat. It's like Danielson did that last run. He went out. He tied up his loose ends. He did all those things he wanted to. He went out the way he chose. That's great. But dude, done is done, and that's fine. There is no shame in it whatsoever. Do you miss going through the curtain? Sure, 100%. Hell, my rinky-dink little stuff, I still miss going through the curtain. But guess what? You're at a time where you got to start setting that aside, because now we're done now. Like
You don't
he
wanna-
his own description was when he was walking around the house, it felt like that his head was a bobblehead the way his neck was. It's like, dude, just let it go.
and like it was one of the early PWG guys. I don't remember his name. It wasn't Excalibur. It was Disco something. I don't remember his name. I remember him talking to Colt though, and he was like, and he had retired early from wrestling. And he's like, yeah, I started having trouble remembering where my keys were, so I just decided like I was done with wrestling.
And that was smart of him.
Because like you don't want to get to like 55 and not be able to remember your kid's name. Like that's where.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where
100%.
that's where Tua and I'm worried about Tua in the NFL with his concussions. Because he's had, I don't know how much you guys have watched, but he's had like 4 now.
Ooh.
Because he had one, and then they misdiagnosed it, so he went out the next week, and he got concussed again, and then he got concussed the end of that season, I think, and then this year I think he went a year, he was fine, and this year he lowered his head, like on a run to like try and get a couple extra yards, and he rang his bell again. And like totally KO'd himself. So it's like, yeah,
Please don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah, there's going to be a, like I said, I get it. I get missing it, and cuz it was a rush like nothing else. I was like, if this is what drugs is like, I get it. But man, I'm really like, he's got to let that go.
Yeah. Let's talk about. I have a couple I want to talk about. Let's go to some TNA/ROH guys. So we can start us off here with Samoa Joe, who I think had one of the best title runs of this era. With
right there on my list.
On my list.
I think still probably the best ROH title run.
Yeah.
Really put them on the map. I think what hurts Joe is the injuries. I'm not blaming the WWE on this, but when his WWE run, I think hurts him a little bit because he was getting hurt a lot, and I think he because that was one of my criticisms of him when like he got released, and we were saying like, well, does he need to go to AEW? And I said, well, he should lose like 50 pounds to go, and then like, because I think that'll help with his injury problems. Then guess what? He shows up in AEW 50 pounds lighter, and he's been doing like, he's got a lot of his explosiveness back. He's had some injuries, but it's not as bad. But like, I think that little like 2014 to like 2020 era kind of like hurts him a little bit just because he was struggling physically. Because there's times in WWE like on NXT, like when he was doing stuff, like, man, he just looks like he's walking through sand.
So Samoa Joe is a guy I've been a fan of for 25 years. 2001, I think, I had a friend link me the 3 Joe Punk for the ROH title matches, and I loved Joe for 25 years and despised Punk for 25 years, because I remember watching that match, loving watching Samoa Joe and being bored as shit watching CM Punk in them. But every time that I have seen Samoa Joe be given the ball to do something big with it, the guy has killed it. You know, he had that feud with Brock Lesnar in that time where everybody knew that Brock Lesnar was not dropping the title to anybody but Roman Reigns whenever they finally got around to doing it. But Samoa Joe did such a good job with it that he had us all on the edge of our seat. Just, you know, we were true believers at that point.
Lesnar gave him a lot in that program too.
Yeah. You had the, you know, when Joe was the one that
promo where he talks about where he's choking out Heyman and telling him how he's going to choke him out while he's doing it is really a really good promo.
And you had Joe show up and do the I mean, even when he wasn't at the top of the card, his King of TV run in his early AEW run was great. When he dethroned MJF, it was great. He only held the title for 3 months, but it was basically a reset, and it's exactly what needed to happen.
I think that's where they started turning it around, because he really got the stink of like the brochacho stuff off the title pretty quick. And there's this one like where he beats Hook, and I like that he sits down next to Taz and he's like, "Who raised that little savage?"
And then here recently, the thing with the Ops fighting the Death Riders, Joe has just been killing it. It's like every time you turn around and hand Samoa Joe the ball, he takes off and runs with it.
That cage match was better than it had any right to be, but that ending was dog shit.
What were you gonna say, Matt?
there's guys that you could say like they've left WWE or other places, I guess, but that they've gone to AEW and they have kind of proven themselves. And I'm not talking about guys who are obviously like maybe they're still in their 20s. I'm talking about guys who are like WWE would probably consider like, oh, they're over the hill, like whatever, and they have really, really made a mark in AEW. And they're guys that's like, I would say Christian has done a phenomenal job in AEW, but Samoa Joe may be like the story for those type of guys, like that segment of guys. It's like older, but have gone and they have really, really established themselves and have proven to be like almost like an MVP. I know that they're guys that you're gonna really put as the MVP, like Adam Page or Swerve, like the younger guys, But you cannot say that Samoa Joe, whatever he's getting paid, that he hasn't brought every bit of value and more to his time at AEW. Like he's done a tremendous job. Like he is quietly Tony Khan's like in case of emergency break glass. He's that guy.
Him and Mox.
He could, yeah.
Well,
Mox is a different level.
Mox needs to be retired from that role for a little while after this.
Well, no, I'm not saying currently. I'm saying historically.
I haven't Mox. Hey, you can talk about the Elite, and I think the Elite is great, and I think that even beyond like the Bucks and Omega, like Adam Page to me still is or should be the Sting of AEW, the guy that is your franchise player, and that you could build on if he's there with the company for like 10 to 15 years. Like you can still like use this guy as the top level, whatever. But Mox, when it's all said and done, he's your guy. He is in many ways like your franchise guy too. Like he will. Yeah. There's very few people in the course of AEW who is more important than Mox. Yeah. And I say that even though I've been down on the Death Riders run, and currently, if the plan for All In is Mox versus Adam Page, it's like look. I like Darby a lot, I really do. You cannot job Adam Page to Mox at All In. You can't.
There's no need to do
it. Just so you can get a Darby winning over Mox for the championship, you cannot do it. Like Tony Khan, and I don't,
because people lose hope.
I am wondering. Yeah, and I don't know
the same issue they had. It's the same issue of Osprey had won. Like if you job them there, who are you going to job them to?
There's two ways to look at it. You could be like, well, I agree with you, Brad. I 100% agree with you that it's like you can't have Osprey lose his first like real championship match.
He had one.
Yeah, but that's different though.
But
that's
he wasn't.
before he got hot.
Yeah. Well, wasn't it before he actually officially signed with AEW?
No, it was last year. He challenged.
It was Forbidden Door.
But it wasn't. But he hadn't got. The difference there though is that's not his current streak where he's peaking. And
they're kind of doing a storyline where it's like he's coming close to the big one, but he doesn't have it yet, and he needs to like come over that hurdle. So there's the whole storyline there. But there's two ways to look at it. One, it's like if you just job Osprey, like you're kind of killing him. So the fact that they didn't is Adam Page is like, well, they could do that because they're just gonna job him so that Darby can win it. Or it could be the other way. It's that Tony Khan is like, no, Adam Page, the storyline, Darby's involved in the storyline, and you could still do some stuff with Death Riders with Darby and or the returning Eddie Kingston, potentially.
Yeah.
You could still do stuff with them not involving the title. And really, you could have the aspect be like, this is kind of like a couple year long Adam Page redemption arc where he's coming back to remembering who he was as a face.
Yeah. Look, if you want to have Darby involved, have Darby and Eddie Kingston be the ones that basically dismantle the Death Riders permanently. Like, Hangman takes the belt away from them, and Mox is all pissed off about it. But when Darby and Eddie show up, They're the ones that put that stable in the dirt. There you go. Guess what? You have, because Darby was the one who went hard at them early on. You know, Darby crashed a car into Mox's truck to get after him, kind of stuff. Sure, great. You want to pay that off, but you don't want to wait for, you know, this is the time to move the title.
Well, and the other thing is their business this year has steadily been improving. Like the metrics are going up, and Paige drew for them last time. Like Meltzer brought that up when people were like all on like about the Punk versus Paige thing, whereas Paige did better on the top of the card than Punk at certain points. So your business is going up, going up, going up. Like putting it back on a proven draw might even get you like in a better direction, like even more so.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. That's the thing, and it's funny. It's funny seeing like the AEW grifters have kind of died off a little this year because they don't. There's nothing to harp on anymore. They have to make shit up because like their ratings are going up. People are watching through the whole show. Like there are people that still lose their mind if you bring up what they like. Literally lose their mind if Meltzer brings up that 500,000 people watch them on Max.
Yeah.
And like their attendance is up, like all their metrics are up, but the shows are better. That's why. The shows are so much better because it feels fresh. The production's a little better. They're featuring younger people, new people. It just doesn't, I don't know. It just feels better this year. They're doing the little things better.
And again, like, I'm a hater in some respects, so I never thought it was as good as people made it out to be. But the WWE is going down in terms of
in flames,
the quality of the booking that they're doing. I'm not even going to say like the product, because obviously they do a certain type of product that they have conditioned their fans to enjoy. But even then, it is still like the quality of the booking is such that even under those metrics, it's like it's bad, and it's getting bad. So
I think it's been bad for like 6 months because that Mania build was abysmal.
It was bad, and in just in general, it's getting worse. So I think that people are losing interest, and not that those people are going to go to AEW. It's just that the WWE is going down. So
I actually think
that there is some crossover, people may be jumping back to AEW.
Well, so I have a theory of why AEW is up because people keep talking about how their over 50 demo has been going up. So my theory is when WWE moved to Netflix, they left a bunch of people with no wrestling, and now those people are starting to check out AEW, and not all of them are sticking, but some of them are sticking. So WWE has actually injected like some people that were homeless for wrestling into that, and that's why they're older demos, because they're picking up homeless WWE like Raw fans.
This isn't the wrestling of 10 to 20 years ago to 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, but it's not back then where you're getting or 20 years ago, let's go, or 25. You're not going to getting like Rock and Mankind getting like an 8.0 or something stupid. Like you're not, like you never will.
No, you're slap fighting over at best a couple million fans.
It's too fragmented. Look, my wife and I, like I don't know if I mentioned on the show, I've told you guys before, like we this year at some point in the next like 6 months, we are going to move out of this house. We have to re-renovate our house. We're going to move out, and then we'll move back in. Hopefully within like 2 to 3 months, we'll move back in after they finish everything. And when we do, she and I were talking about like, we're probably going to cut cable. Because we have cable now and internet. It's like, do we really need cable? It's like, nah, we could just do internet. Because we have all these streaming services, including HBO Max. So it's like, I can just watch AEW on HBO Max. Obviously,
What I do.
WWE.
That's what I do.
Obviously, WWE isn't on cable outside of SmackDown, obviously, or NXT. But um,
I mean, you just got to get
I
it.
could
You just
just,
got
I
to
could
get
just
digital
watch
rabbit
I could
ears
just watch
for that.
AEW and HBO Max. Like,
Yeah. I mean, Netflix.
Uh,
I mean, NXT. You just need digital rabbit ears. You can watch it.
yeah. But point is, like, yeah, there are some people. It's like you don't need. It doesn't have to be like 10 million. It's not going to be 10 million. But let's say AEW potentially is picking up like 50,000 people that used to watch Raw, 100,000. Like, that's a small blip, kind of. But in the context of like most, you're only getting an X amount of people anyway. Like, it actually makes sense. Speaking of ratings, they just said SmackDown got 1.3.
Ooh.
That's horrible.
That that show's been terrible for like a year. Like they just quit trying once
SmackDown,
it was off Fox. But like,
Raw globally just, I think, got 2.7.
yeah,
Globally,
it seems
over the course of a week, worldwide.
We'll see. So there's this idea amongst wrestling fans as a whole, and I may have been a little too guilty of this, but I don't think there was this hunger for necessarily American style wrestling, but like WWE globally that existed. And I think that's being borne out by the fact that they just aren't getting a lot of views. And then I also think the other thing that's driving me nuts, and this is not just a WWE thing, this is a wrestling thing in general. I am tired of wrestling fans that think like pro wrestling has any sort of pop cultural.
Oh my God.
Because like people talking about that Beyonce concert, like you're fucking insane. Like there's not a single person that's going to that Beyonce concert that gives a flying fuck about wrestling.
For people who don't know, to counter program All In, the WWE is running a Saturday Night Main Event that night. Now, All In is airing in like the afternoon or even middle of the day. So the WWE Saturday Night Main Event is airing at nighttime. Like All In will be like done by then. So, but they actually just announced like they're doing an NXT show at the same time as All In. It's like, well, who gives a shit? Like that, I don't feel the audiences are really crossing over, but whatever. To continue counter programming, the WWE announced that they're doing the all women's pay per view Evolution 2. Which when was the last time they did it? 2018, 2019. We reviewed the show.
Yeah, it was an early day of the show.
Years ago, and I don't even mean like it was pre-COVID, y'all.
It had
and
a Bella.
COVID
it had a Bella wrestler.
Started in 2020. Oh, it was. I think it was like 2018. So that
2018 or 2019.
So you're looking at a 6 to 7 year period between the two. But they're doing it. But they're doing it on a Sunday night. I believe it's. Well, actually, it might be Saturday night. The MLB All-Star Game is happening like in Atlanta because it's happening in Atlanta. The same weekend and maybe the same night. But bigger thing is like they're doing the show from maybe there's the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, and literally across the street they're doing the Beyonce concert, and it's like. I don't think there's a ton of cross audience between wrestling, pro wrestling, and Beyonce, but it's going to be a nightmare people getting into and out of that area if you are trying to see the wrestling show.
If something like that was happening, if I was thinking about going to a wrestling show and they're like, oh, there's going to be a big ass concert like right across the street, I'm like, I'm not going. I'm not dealing with that mess. And I even know like. The tricky places to like park where I can get in and out easy, but I'm like, no, that's too many people.
Yeah. But people on Twitter were even commenting to Sean Ross Sapp, and it's like, oh, like, yeah, like Beyonce probably like moved the concert like because of the wrestling show. And Sean Ross Sapp was like, no. And Beyonce did not move her concert because of wrestling. And it's like, I need y'all to be serious. You have to understand, like, now Beyonce has been a big star for like 30 years, but you have to understand where wrestling falls. It's like Beyonce could be because they've just announced that WrestleMania is going to be in Vegas again next year. Beyonce could run a concert in Vegas the same weekend as WrestleMania, and she will probably outdraw WrestleMania. And I'm not even talking about WrestleMania with its inflated ticket prices. It's not on the same level.
No.
You know, WrestleMania, because it's like the Super Bowl of wrestling, maybe it would come close to Beyonce, but it literally would take that. It would take the biggest wrestling event worldwide to even come close to Beyonce.
And it wouldn't even come that close.
And it probably wouldn't even win. I look, people hated on him like 2-3 months ago when he mentioned this, and obviously it was very tribalistic because WWE fans were in denial. But Joey Janelle said when the Costco guys were doing stuff with AEW, like for their pay-per-view, like the dark match they did or the buy-in match they did, or just in general promoting, he flat out said out there, it's like, look, he didn't phrase it exactly this, but basically like drop in Times Square, drop the Costco guys and fucking Roman Reigns, that WWE fans will say it's like, oh, he's so big, he's huge, like and in the WWE world, like, yeah, he's like the biggest guy who lasts like really like 10 years, but certainly like most push guy like the last 5 years. Drop him in Times Square. Drop the Costco guys. Who the fuck do you think is gonna get more people like coming, like taking pictures with, like?
Okay, can I ask a question?
Say it's not gonna be Roman Reigns. I'm sorry.
We have to have a question though. How many of those idiots are gonna think he's Jason Momoa, because that might inflate his numbers a bit?
Maybe.
Because a big ethnic looking guy, like I could see some idiots being like.
Assume they don't. Like, people would want to go see the Costco guys. Yeah. And they're two dudes. They're obviously a dad and a son who have a following, but it's like they have more people, and they're more people know who they are from TikTok, whatever.
And you hear their little
the biggest star of the WWE in the last like 5 years. Like, come on, let's be serious. This isn't the days of the late 90s with Austin and Rock.
I couldn't tell you the last time I heard like a wrestling slogan like out in the wild that isn't something old. Like, it isn't like Macho Man or Hogan, but that double chunk chocolate cookie thing, like you'll just randomly come across that in like weird segments of the internet. And like I didn't even know who they were, but I knew that line.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's a few years ago at this point, but probably like the last like wrestling shirt you could wear that you like guys on the street would stop you, be like, oh, it's like the Bullet Club.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm wearing in honor of him winning, I'm wearing a Hangman Page Bullet Club. But if I wore like the Bullet Club,
and the KO shirt,
it's been a while, but
you see the KO shirt a bit in public for a time, but that's been 8 years now.
If I wore a Roman Reigns shirt, I doubt people would really know. Bloodline. I doubt people would know what I'm talking about.
Probably not.
Nope.
If I wore like a Hulk Hogan shirt, people would be like, "Oh, Hulk Hogan," like,
or a Piper shirt. And you'd be
shirt.
Like, or Piper
I feel
shirt,
a little
like,
gross wearing a Hulk Hogan shirt.
Or like
racist old Hulk Hogan, yeah.
Or like an NWO shirt, you would get a reaction still from like people our age that watched, or like an Austin 316, a DX shirt. But that's all stuff that's 30 years in the past now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, did I show it on the air? Speaking of NWO,
I don't know.
I've been, since I'm moving, I've been going through my old stuff, and if you don't know what this is like a Sting mask you could get at shows in the 90s when it's kind of like a plaster.
Mm-hmm.
And still in pretty good shape. I was surprised.
I'm gonna have to see if I can find the one that's at my mom's house.
I need to see how much a white one would cost so I can have both. But it's a pretty
if you wanna
cheaply made thing.
If you I bought it in plum. But you want a wrestling themed shirt? I think I shared the link with you guys. But here's pay your dues, hot dog and a
God.
handshake.
Oh God.
That's hilarious.
I can send you the link. It's by the way, like,
Oh,
so this is
God.
actually the second shirt I bought of this same. I bought it in blue
Oh,
before. I
God.
bought this one because the workout is like a workout shirt, and
Yeah.
it's actually like really good quality,
Yeah.
like
I found
cotton.
this too for Sting merchandise.
That's nice.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's pay your dues, hot dog and a handshake, and the it's not written on it, but the tagline is like the house was a little light, brother.
Is that
House was a little light, brother.
is that
House was a little light.
is that
Quote
from
from
is that
promoter / world champion.
is
It's
that
like, yeah.
is that from the Gabe Sapolsky merch store?
It should be.
Oh.
Oh man. So I would say the next one I have, it's probably all on our list. AJ Styles, who I think has an interesting argument, because I think we're AJ really, or I think AJ,
Right there.
yeah, that Minoru Suzuki
on my
match
list,
he
yeah.
had in the G1, I think is where he really finally got like a lot of respect as a worker. That New Japan run, I think, was like the smartest thing he did for like his rep as a worker.
Yeah. Look, I love AJ. He's on my list.
Yep.
There are people right now. I don't know his contract status. There are people right now who swear that that contract is up or is about to be up, and that you're probably going to see AJ versus Osprey at All In. And it's like,
I don't want to.
You're setting yourself up for a disappointment.
Yeah,
Even
you're
if it
not.
happens.
I don't.
Even
Look,
if it happens, if it somehow happens,
I've loved
AJ's not that guy anymore.
No.
Like, I love
AJ. I have been
But
a
that-
fan of his for 20 years also, and he's winding down. It's
He's
just
winding
not going to
down.
happen.
He's bulked up a lot. Like he just, I mean, he hasn't been. He's not. He's still better than average, but like he's not. He's not that guy anymore. And I think
Yeah,
He's not that guy.
And what would I mean? Even like, what would an AEW run even look like for him? Like I don't like what's the draw there.
I don't
look,
know.
I feel that for the most part, the Adam Copeland run in AEW has been pretty good.
Yeah, but I
there-
feel
he gets a lot
like
of hate.
there. But
I
the
don't feel like he should have main evented a pay per view.
no, he shouldn't have. But like
No.
there was intrigue to Copeland though, because he did stuff. He did different stuff. Like there's nothing like the Minoru Suzuki versus Copeland match wasn't amazing, but it was interesting to see Copeland out of his like comfort zone. And
Copeland is interesting because I feel like he did do interesting stuff and it was pretty good, and they got injured, and he hasn't quite been the same since. But
no,
he's also winding down too. Like he's even said
Yeah.
like when the contract ends, he's pretty much done.
He's needing to decide if he's going to say, I'm going to be putting someone over on my way out. I want to make someone on the way out. It's like, dude, you need to start working on that now.
but the difference
Because-
between
We're probably gonna get a Jericho, a Copeland Christian not tag title run, but tag run. Probably before it all winds up.
But
you know.
but the difference between Copeland and AJ though is so Copeland had intriguing things to do because he'd been in WWE forever. But the problem with AJ is he doesn't have that intrigue. Like whatever you could do with AJ and AEW, he's already done it. Because he went like all those different places. Like oh, you want to do like AJ versus Joe, okay? Like
Yeah.
do you want to see AJ try
There's-
like some strong style match with Minoru Suzuki? He did it already.
There's maybe some, like, you could do Styles against Osprey. You could do Styles against Omega. You could even do Styles maybe against some of the younger guys. Like,
Look,
like
Matt,
Mike
to your
Bailey.
point, I
But
think
he's not
that-
that guy anymore. So
no. I think Styles versus Orange Cassidy could have a lot of fun with it. because they both like to mess with things and subvert expectations and that sort of stuff. But even that being said,
I think you would have on paper interesting matchups still with Styles. I just don't think that the end product would.
And I don't
Yeah.
think the interest, I don't think the fan interest would necessarily be there out of sight of a hardcore niche. Because I love AJ Styles, but like when you're like, oh, he's like AJ Styles in AEW, I'm just like, eh.
I mean, sure, would it be nice? Sure, but there's just not as much to get out of it now.
No, and like I think that's a bad reaction if you're a fan of a guy and like, how would you like to see them in the other company? It's like, I guess, sure.
A few years ago, awesome. Now, I hate to say it, but probably not.
Like I mean, how many people even like I'm just trying to spitball in my head. How many people in WWE would I even want to see in AEW? And I think like I don't know, I'm just like Sammy maybe.
Hmm.
The WWE to AEW.
Yeah.
Look.
New Day, I guess.
I know he's. Look, I know Sammy's beloved, and the bloodline kind of gave him like new life, but Sammy was washed basically. Like before then, he kind of just like pulled a little bit back up, but I don't care to see Sammy.
He's up there too.
In AEW, he obviously injured his neck and has surgery, and I don't know if he'll come back or how he'll be if he come back. But people were like, "Oh, Kevin Owens." It's like I think he just re-signed with WWE, so it's like not an option. But it's like I don't.
And he's not. I mean, the thing is,
I wouldn't have wanted to see KO. Like
the thing is, like KO's been like so. There's a lot of problems with Kevin Owens. Booking's a big part of it, but the other problem is he's so content just to lean on his crutches that I find him completely uninteresting as a character anymore because he's too like he's just playing the hits now.
Well, he's at that point in his career where that's kind of what you do. You know, you're wringing as much out of what you've got left as you can, and you know, no hate to him for it, but
I feel like someone like Christian is always coming up with some little wrinkle in a promo or something like, oh, your dad died. Like that was a new wrinkle for him. Like, you know, Christian's not content to play the hits.
Yeah. But so there's but maybe it's like a time thing where like you come full circle because it's like Christian, and even to an extent like Copeland. It's like they're at that stage where it's like, you know what? I'm not just playing the hits. I'm gonna do something different. And maybe Kevin Owens like isn't in that phase yet, but
I think with Copeland though, he got energized by the new environment. I think that's why Copeland became.
I legit did. I think again, like him coming back from the injury, like he's lost stuff from that. But he's winding down, so it's like I don't know if we'll see him regain that from where he got before he was injured, but I don't know. I do appreciate that he was energized, and he even said, and I think he was genuine, where he's like essentially saying like he was having as much fun, like it's almost like when he first started. You know, he's working in the indies. And I believe him, but he also I think he's realistic with his body. Like it isn't just like the neck thing. Like he gave some sort of interview recently, which I don't think he's joking. Where he said like I have to. It's a story you've heard from a lot of guys who are older, especially people who are athletes or very physical. It's like wake up in the morning, and then it's like 30 to 60 minutes just like getting your body limber enough that you can walk around normally.
That's me with my.
What was it
dude,
Kevin Nash used to say?
Look,
it used to take him a half hour to get out of bed?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't had near as physical life as they have, and I'm in my 40s now. Sometimes it's like I get up, you know, go downstairs to make my kids lunches for school, whatever like that. And it's like I'm walking down the stairs, and I'm holding up my leg, and it's like, turn my ankle.
I have
Like,
severe arthritis in my ankles, and I don't know why I got cursed with it, but I have severe arthritis in my toes too, and like it on a bad day, it can take me a good couple hours for things to like start working right.
I know that, okay, depending on the day when I wake up, it could be both knees. This morning, whenever I went downstairs, my wife was walking behind me, and she looked at me. She goes, "I don't want to like piss you off with this, but you kind of got a Vince McMahon walk going there." And it's because my knees were stiff enough that I was kind of doing the side to side lumber as I went down the stairs.
Yeah,
So it kind of looked like a strut from the back.
I get a waddle when my ankles are real bad.
Kind of like, oh, and it could be my left hip because I screwed that up. I remember thinking whenever I did it, I was like, well, that's going to be a problem. My shoulder might hurt, my neck might hurt. I don't know. Heck, right now my allergies hurt. Never know, but and so if Owens is just playing the hits because he's not wanting to put more tear on his body, do it, man. But dropping into another company where high match performance is the premium,
and where you gotta
probably not going to be the best move for you.
And like, if you're Kevin Owens, like at your age, why do you want to go? Why do you want to have to go prove yourself again? Like for someone like Edge, I get it because he wanted to prove he could do it somewhere else. But like Kevin Owens doesn't have to do that, like because he had a long indie run, and it's like if you only have so many miles on there, it's like, well, if I just stay in WWE where I don't have to go 100% to prove myself, I might get 3 or 4 years out of it. But if I go to AEW, I might be done in 2.
Yeah. Or 1.
The other thing that we haven't factored in, there could be a Rey Dominic thing going on because his son is like, first off, his son is like 6'10" or something crazy. Like his son is giant.
Oh yeah.
But his son, I guess, is kind of at least softly just started training to be a wrestler. So you could see like Kevin Owens, like I think he just resigned, so I think it's a moot point. But if he hasn't, you could see him sticking around WWE just because it's like, well, you know, they can. My kid wants to get into wrestling, like they can make him a wrestler, and it's like. That's the thing with Rey and Dominic. Like Rey literally signed a contract again with WWE because the idea was like, well, like make Dominic like a star, and I guess they did in some respects. I think Dominic is not.
He's not good.
Near the worker he could have been, but
he found a way.
In their ecosystem, he is a star.
He's over, but like he's like at his ceiling, which. I think he found a niche and he can stay on the card, but like you can't do much more with him than you have because he's just too limited in the ring.
Well, but here's the thing though. To be in that spot in a company that big is a good place to be. It's not going to enter him into this conversation, but still, I mean, the guy's found something that works and he's working it very well. More power to you, dude. Go with it.
I also think though, at his age, like we've talked about that before. Like if you're winding down, like why leave WWE when you only have a couple years left, and you know they're gonna push a certain amount of merch for you, and you're gonna make so much money. Whereas if you go to AEW, you're gonna have to grind it out a bit and hope like your shirt sells or whatever. Like, you'll probably get another action figure. You'll get a couple of video game appearances and some royalties from that. Like, because there's a point, because I know we do shit on WWE a lot, but, like, there is a point, like, when you're winding down. Like, if you're Penta, like, WWE makes a lot of sense if you're Penta. Because you're going to sell a lot of
makes sense. Just don't be a dipshit and kick up a fuss on the way out.
Well, I mean, the funny thing is Rey Fenix was the one kicking up all the fuss, and he's done.
Oh, Oh, he's
He's
been
dead.
jobbed out already. He, you know, as an aside, like, and I said this before, like in our Discord, but people have always said like, oh, Ray's like the better worker, like Ray's great, etc. Like hyping up Ray, and I've always said like I like Penta more. I unabashedly like Penta more. Like maybe Ray's the better worker. Like Penta to me is more interesting. He looks cooler.
Ray's
Like he
more
has more
physically
aura.
gifted.
Yeah, he has more aura, whatever, like that. And at least in the WWE system, that's held out. Like they feel the same way. Like Penta is
Well,
the big deal,
Well, the problem
and
is though,
Ray is like Ray's been jobbed out. He debuted like 2 months ago, and he's already been jobbed out like multiple times.
he's visibly lost a step too though. Like whatever that last injury was, like he's not the same. I don't know. I was always more of a Penta guy myself, but like I like the character better. Like I think Ray is a much better in ring talent than Penta is, but Penta's just I like the character of him. Though he did almost kill someone last night because that was just dumb as fuck.
yeah, that should not have happened.
That was so stupid.
Yeah, yeah, that should not have happened.
Well, I think I watched it a couple times. I think he just his knee gave out on him because I think he had too much weight.
Look, it's stupid to try and do a pile driver spot while you're doing something with somebody on your back. Like
Yeah.
that's no.
Or if you're gonna do it, do the Randy Savage one where you fall on your butt.
Yeah, because it was a combination sit down pile driver and like Deadeye kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah,
So
it was
that
dumb.
didn't need to. Yeah, that didn't need to happen.
What
So
is-
did we kind of collectively agree on
Well,
the
so I would say if it was my list, oops. Obviously Omega and Danielson are already there, so mine would probably be. Oh, ranking them. Fuck. Okay. So Okada, Tanahashi, Mysterio, Styles, Joe. I think would how I would rank them.
I don't know enough about Okada and Tanahashi to give them a fair shake, so I'm just going to kind of put them to the side. And so for me, it'd be battling out between Joe and Styles, and I think for me, oh God, it's so close. Oh God, it's so close. It's probably going to be Joe by a fingernail. Just barely.
I would generally agree with Brad's rankings, although I feel like we did the whole Joe versus Styles discussion not that long ago, and I
Yeah.
chose Styles. In the time since, like I feel like because Joe has continued doing like awesome stuff in AEW, Joe may have like ranked above AJ.
Not for me
Mhm.
because
In
he
my
still has that dead period, but like it's helping him climb. It's helping him retain that. It's helping him rebound where he might have dropped down people's lists where I think he's crawling back up to where he would have been had he not had that like kind of dead
Yeah.
period of the late tens. Minus the Brock
I
Lesnar
might-
thing, which was awesome.
Yeah, I might put Joe before Styles. I have a contentious honorable mention.
Oh, I want to hear it.
We're dealing with the last 25 years now. You have to think
Uh-huh.
about that. 25 years, because he's
Yeah.
very, very hated at the moment and has been for like the last couple years. One of the best of the last like 25 years, considering the overall quality of his work and how often he has been able to reinvent himself.
Yeah.
Chris Jericho.
He doesn't have
I-
the in ring to be up there because
not on the level of some of these other guys,
but
but
his
he's
ability to constantly tweak his character, because like I think when he like first left WWE, I mean, because he doesn't get enough credit because it's popular to hate on him now, which I think a lot of it's not even wrestling, but like that match he had with Kenny Omega is a big part of why AEW happened, because
oh, absolutely,
that
yeah.
really put indie wrestling and like drew in people like my cousin, like a lot of people that like weren't necessarily into stuff outside of WWE wanted to see Jericho versus Kenny Omega and like got a New Japan World subscription for it. And I think like the pain, I can never say it right.
Painmaker.
Painmaker is a really interesting gimmick. His early, I mean, even to AEW, he's reinvented himself a couple of times. Like
several times, yeah.
I even think like the weight loss and like finding his mojo again as far as in the ring when he lost the weight. Even like I know people don't like the learning tree, but like even like the stuff he's doing with them and Brian Keith, I think has been.
So the Inner Circle was set up as kind of the initial heel stable and got people visibility. Then after the Inner Circle, I think he went into the Jericho Appreciation Society.
Yeah.
Which had different people getting more visibility on TV. Now that he's gone into the learning tree, it's getting Big Bill and Brian Keith regular features on TV, and it has benefited them.
Brian Keith has largely benefited from it.
And so Jericho, I think, even if his in-ring may not be as good as you might otherwise say, what I would say is that he's been able to show his mind. He would have an all-time mind and knowledge for the business. Even if his in-ring couldn't keep up with all of it, I believe that I could say that his just his creativity and knowledge is so high up there.
I have a statement to make also in his plus column. The Royal Rumble has never recovered from him not being in the company to direct traffic for the Rumble.
God, that's not having someone who knows what they're doing directing traffic has just made a huge difference.
So remember, he always was out there like in the first 5, and people were always like, "Why is Jericho early?" And then Meltzer's like, "Because Vince trusted him to keep it all together out there."
Yeah.
And then there's the list, which wasn't my favorite thing that he did, but there's the list. The Jericho I thought was decent at the time.
You had his Anton Chigurh gimmick. You had, he has found a way, a lot like Terry Funk, to consistently reinvent himself.
Yeah.
So,
I would, even if I would put him as, I wouldn't put him as like my greatest of all time, but because of everything, yes, like, is he on the same level as like Okada? No. Rey? No. Tanahashi? No. I'd probably put him lower than like Styles or Joe, but that's why I said honorable mention. But I would say like in the overall rankings for your top wrestlers of all time, like he has a higher spot than people in the current era want to give him credit for, because he is a guy who's even he's in his 50s now. Like the quality of his work, like his in-ring work, is not going to be like the same as it was, and it's a sliding scale. It's like you're not going to see like the quality of work when he was like 30 years younger or 20 years younger.
He still sneaks a good,
even 10 years younger.
He snuck some really great performances, like the Eddie Kingston match where they just had an All Japan match. The ROH match where he lost the title to Claudio, I thought was really good. That
Yeah.
Wheeler Yuta match I saw live at Dynamite, I thought was like really good. I'll say though, I'd place him over Kurt Angle
Yeah.
for the modern
Yeah.
era.
I sat and I thought about Angle for a long time, and the thing that I realized is what is what is a Kurt Angle match is a bunch of belly to belly or German suplexes, maybe an ankle lock, and the ankle slam.
And
He might do a
forearm.
moonsault in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, and he was good at that, but then on the other hand, that's a lot of sameness.
One, he didn't sell a lot, so the problem Angle has, because that's a big contention. People are upset that Meltzer never gave him a 5-star match, which Meltzer is right. He never was in a 5-star match. But Angle's biggest problem, in my opinion, is Angle is a spot monkey. And he doesn't get that label because he was in the big leagues and because he's not doing, like when people think of spot monkey, they think of like flippy shit. Because that used to be a big criticism I had of Zack Sabre Jr. I think he's improved on it. But like he used to do all this, like I call it grapple fuck is what I call it. So he would do spot monkey stuff with grappling stuff because he would do all this like grappling stuff, and Shad kind of agreed with me when we watched some of his stuff. But he would do this stuff. It's like you look like you've never gotten on the mat and had to like try to like grapple with another human being with them resisting you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you would not be doing this stuff.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in the what was it, the Cruiserweight Classic?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Oh, I got this," and he spins, or he's got to hold the guy's wrist and spins around on his back, and I'm like, "Why would you not just step on him? Just step on him. Why? Because that's not the spot."
But it's also no coincidence that Angle's best work is when he's in there with a veteran that he has to listen to that saves him from his worst instincts.
Yeah. Look, the Royal Rumble match, Angle versus Voldemort, I thought was really good. At the time, I don't know if I agreed with the outcome or not, but I thought that was really good. But what was that is, and correct my understanding if I'm wrong on it, but I thought that was basically like an All Japan match where it's like one guy throws another guy in a big thing, and then the other guy pops up and throws him, and then they both lay there for a while, and now it's time to get up and throw each other some more, and then lay down for a while.
Yeah, that would be
I haven't
All Japan when it got kind of into its excesses, but I haven't seen that match since it happened, so I'd need to see it again.
I haven't watched much Kurt Angle, oddly enough, since I was wrestling, so I'd have to go back and watch it, and if what you were saying about the selling is true, I'd probably be pretty pissed off.
Remember, he had a match with. This is where I hold this against him forever because once I saw this tidbit about him, I never unsaw it. But he had a SummerSlam match with Eddie, and he complained that Eddie was selling too much because he wanted to do more moves. But like, if you look at the stuff that Angle did is really good. He's in there. Like, I think his best opponents were Jeff Jarrett and Steve Austin because they were vets that he couldn't big league and would tell him no. And we're like, no, we're not going to do 500 German suplexes. 2 are fine. And then we're going to do this stuff that like a good wrestling match has.
Unless Austin volunteers to take 13. But that was an Angle, so.
That was on Voldemort when he took like 20.
Okay, I had a moment. I'm like, never mind.
Because they wrestled that came later, but 2001, like Austin had like a sneaky, really good year that year.
Yeah.
But yeah, Angle's not like Angle is a flawed worker. Like I'll use a great example of his flaws as a worker. The Iron Man match he had with Lesnar that was not good. And that match had all sorts of structural problems and like um, pacing issues and stuff.
I only ever watched that one once, and that was live. So
And that was enough.
yeah, I think so.
He has a lot of the issues. I think they're very, very analogous to me. I have the same issues with them. Him and Seth Rollins, I have a lot of the same issues with. And they both,
I would have to sit down and think about my opinion of Seth Rollins for a while in order to be able to articulate it properly.
but like the superplex or the superplex into the Falcon Arrow thing is exactly something like Angle would fucking do and never pin anyone.
That's true. That's true.
I
You're 100% right.
I think I would hate that move less if he actually pinned people with it.
Or if it was a setup to the curb stomp. It's superplex, Falcon Arrow, and then that's when he backs into the corner and sets up for the curb stomp. Cool. Like, I dislike the superplex into Falcon Arrow for the same reason I dislike the Panama Sunrise. It's stupid.
Well, and Rollins has a real issue of, like, if you put him in, like, this is a cage match for a blood feud, he just wrestles the same match.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Or when they did,
Most people are gonna have flaws, and
or when they
that's why they don't go on this list.
this is not something he did wrong, but remember when they're doing that stupid feud he had with Ziggler, and they put them in a 30-man Iron Man match, even though they had already had a match on TV or pay-per-view that went longer than 30 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah, that was
So stupid.
Yeah, that was really bad. So I believe that says that the GOTEs are Danielson, Omega, Okada, Tanahashi, Joe, and Styles. Order, season to taste is in terms of order on your behalf.
Yeah. I feel like you're starting to see enough Okada to start having an opinion on him.
I'm starting to. The thing that I'm getting with Okada at the moment is that if he's motivated, it's great, and if he's not motivated, he's just like, eh. And I'm like,
That's why Nakamura's not on this list. Like, Nakamura has some really awesome matches out there, but, like, those are few and far between because, I mean, the Kota Ibushi match was awesome. I think he might have had that, like, that first match he had with Sami Zayn in NXT was so awesome, and he never came close to even touching that in WWE ever again.
the thing that I love about that is that match with Sami Zayn was all called in the ring. The story is that it was all called in the ring because one or the other of them got held up getting to so they just called it out there.
But I hated, like, that feud he had with AJ where it was just he kept kicking AJ in the balls repeatedly.
Because they couldn't give Nakamura a clean win for the title.
Did he ever win the title in that feud?
No. One of those matches ended with them kicking each other in the testicles and then falling over and not being able to answer the 10 count.
Oh God, why?
Yeah.
Why? That was right after Jinder Mahal's failed title run.
I think so.
You know what I hated about the Jinder Mahal run?
The matches sucked.
Yes, but
Everything.
no, that's the problem though. Is like the trappings were really good. Like his entrances were awesome. Like the Singh brothers were great managers. Like the bumps they took. I even thought the character was pretty good. It's just the matches were dog shit. But like I thought the entrances were great. I love the Singh brothers. Like he had like all the trappings of like a good champion. He just couldn't do the work part of it.
He could
The problem-
Go ahead, Matt.
The problem generally is that they didn't build him up as like a rising star and then he won the title. It's like they signed this deal with India. So to kind of like make it seem like a big deal, it's like, oh, now he's a champion. When he was like a jobber like
Yeah, he like won a match, then won the title.
Yeah, it's like, look, I love him, but it's like the Butcher in AEW. Like, you all of a sudden the Butcher is now the champion. It's like this guy was jobbing on
Yeah,
TV like a month ago. It's like,
yeah.
no, and that's a really extreme example, but let's say even if you take someone who's a little more hyped up in AEW, like who would you choose? Like,
If you had like Jack Perry win the title tomorrow.
I know, but Jack Perry's been like more established as a guy. But yeah, it's like if you put the world title on Jack Perry like comes back and he's like, he takes the title off Mox. People be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's true.
It's kind of like that. But
Or if you had like
I don't know.
like Roderick Strong win the world title.
But Roderick was
Even-
still,
Yeah, he's still
more of a deal.
established.
yeah.
Hologram.
AR Fox.
Oh yeah, Air Fox is a good one.
That probably
that's
be
not-
fun. Or Beast Mortos.
Commander. Because even like people be like, "What the fuck if Mike Bailey won the world title?" But Mike Bailey already has had more like build than
Yeah,
Jinder had.
Yeah.
Yeah, he at least has been like featured. Like if he won the title like on Dynamite tomorrow, you might be like, whoa, that's crazy. But he can't be like, oh, they just introduced this guy. Like they haven't done anything with him. It's like, no, like for the last like 2-3 months they've consistently showed him as like a big deal.
But you could have like built him up and done like, oh, he wins the U.S. title, and now he's like, oh, this isn't the U.S. title. This is like the you know, Great India title, or like, you know, just name it after the region or something. Like this is like the Southeast Asian, like, or Southwest, you know, whatever title, and you know, build up from there. Then he can win the world title. Like at least you can like, that's what secondary titles are for, so you can test run people.
yeah.
But I think that's it for this week.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I believe we can put a fork in it at this point. We've
Yeah.
kind of powered down a little bit.
Yeah, I started crashing out hard. But so I do not know what next week is going to look like for the show. It's probably going to be something a little more simple because I am moving this weekend, so I'll probably have a different backdrop next week. And so we'll probably do something simple, and then we'll probably get back to USWA. I think after that. So this has been the 4Corners podcast. This has been Matt, Shad, and Brad. We've been in 3 corners, and you've been in the 4th. Thank you for watching as always, and we will